Hi everybody, it's Benita. I'm here to start my tutorial for you. Super excited about it. Remember, this is our gift portfolio that has just the 4 pages in it and then the incredible front and back cover on it. So we are going to first start with making and covering up your chipboard. If time allows on this first part, I will also then talk about the waterfall. So just a reminder that this album is 7¼ by 9 with a 1½ inch spine. And so I'm going to talk about that. I didn't always used to cover my covers, and I kind of talked about when I showed you my album. Now I do it for everyone. I like it. I like how it goes. You can use any color chipboard. You can use anything that you can find that's heavy enough. You don't have to wrap your spine if you don't want to, and that's one of the beauties. I know a lot of us struggle with moving it over here, and it will get a crack right here. I learned something the other day. I haven't tried it, but paper does have a grain just like fabric, and that does make a difference. Don't have time to experiment with it, but that does. So we're going to talk about that. So let's start with the cover. What I want to show you is what you will be needing to do this part of the tutorial, and I have a picture here. I think you will be able to scan in a little bit and freeze frame it. I'm going to come here just a little bit closer. I think when you watch this, you'll be able to see it. I will be saying what sizes of pieces I have if you can't see it, but I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to give that a shot to see that when it's on the big screen. For me, it's a little bit shorter. So here we go. So the first thing that we are going to do is I'm going to take 2 pieces of black cardstock, and for this I would definitely not use super heavy cardstock because you don't want to have to really work hard to bend it. So what I did is I take 9½ by 11. I take 2 of them, so I take 2 12 by 12 pieces, cut it down by 9½ and 11. On one of them I score 1 inch down right here. You can see that right there, 1 inch down on the 9½ inch side, or excuse me, the 11-inch side on the left-hand side, and then 1 inch at the top. The second piece, I do just 1 inch across the top here. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're going to put these 2 together to make this make about an 11 by 18½ inch piece. So one of the tricks that I use is I use my scoreboard. I put my piece of paper on here, and I use and recommend 150% your art glitter glue. My bottle is just absolutely horrifically chewed up. I need another big bottle of this glue because I go through it a lot. If you haven't used this, I would 100% tell you, please try it. Shelly Geigel carries it at J&S Hobbies, is where I get mine. I'm due for a big bottle of it. And so I'm just going to scribble on my one cardstock that has both of the score lines on it. I always recap my glue right away. And I'm just going to put my second piece on, overlapping about 1/2 inch. And that kind of helps keep it straight when you do this. And I'm just going to kind of run my finger down there. I'm going to take this and get my scoreboard out of the way. And then you will see me do a lot throughout the tutorial with this. This bone folder is from Making Memories. If I could find one of these again, I would buy a dozen of them. They're great. I will burnish everything I touch with glue. And so I turn it over and I just give it a good burnish. And that is what we're going to start covering our album with. Then I'm going to take my 2 big pieces of chipboard, which are 7¼ by 9. And I need 2 of those. And I'm going to adhere those to my paper. I have already pre-done my tape on there. I do use a score tape, so I'm going to score tape around and then once in the middle. So I'm going to rip this up, throw that off to the side. If anybody uses a quilt, if our quilters know Eleanor Burns, she throws her stuff over her shoulder. I'm not going to do that because I personally have to clean my stuff up. Eleanor, I'm sure, has people to clean her stuff up for her. Okay, here's another trick I'm going to tell you. If you turn around and you try to stick this down right now and you put it in the wrong place, you're done. That's how it goes. If you take your pieces where you have tape and you run your glue over it. Can you see me do that? I'm just running right over top of the tape. What happens is when you go to put this down, that makes your tape so it slides. And if you don't put it down right in the beginning, you're not, it's okay. And then I'm just going to scribble, recap my glue because that's how I do it. And I'm going to lay this down right up here in the corner where those two meet for my score. So I'm just going to put that down there, and I'm going to, again, put it down good. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to use my lovely bone folder, and I'm going to give it a good burnish. Sweet. Now the next thing I want to tell you is you need a gap in between here, and I know this is black, I know it's super hard to see, but you need a gap in between your big piece I just put down and the spine, which is 1.5 by 9. You need that. So if you put it up close like this, you're not going to be able to have any movement in your book. I personally like to use 3 thicknesses of chipboard in between. So I have, these are leftover pieces that I have that I've just kept. Sometimes I hook them together. I forgot to do that because this is what I like. If you're using heavier chipboard, you might only want to use 2 thicknesses. This chipboard I get by the big package from J&S Hobbies. My mom goes to visit her and she brings it back to me. That's the thickness I prefer. I love it. So what you're going to do again is you're going to prep your spine piece. I've got my score tape already on there to save some time. I'm going to rip it up. I hope everybody had a great day today. Fall is sure coming. That came quick. Okay, again, I am going to take my glue and I'm going to put it right over that tape. Right over that tape. So it's going to make that slidable so I don't have to panic about getting it down right. And then I scribble. Put my lid back on my glue. Now when I go to put this one in place, again, that line that I did on both of the 1 inch on both of these is right there. So I'm going to take my with the 3 and I'm going to hold them up against this, and you see how tight that is. And I'm going to go and put my next piece on there, and I'm going to get it up there at the top. Make sure you push it down at the bottom if you think it's right. I need to get mine up a little bit taller. Set it down. Get out of the way. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn this paper over. I'm going to burnish it with my bone folder. Okay, great. Moving right along. Now let's add our last piece. Again, I've already prepped my piece. Remember, this is 7.25 by 9. And I'll talk later on how you determine what size these are. In another video, I'll maybe explain the mathematics of how you can make and decide which are your own covers. So I'm going to take up this. Throw that off for you. Really, the mathematics are, for me, you're going to take your page, which was 6.5 inches, remember, and I have to add 1 inch to it because of how we're something doing with our spine, which makes it 7, and then I add 1/4 inch so that your book, your pages don't stick out of your book. So that's kind of how it goes. You really add 3/4 inch to your page. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to put glue on here again on that tape so it doesn't stick right away. In the beginning, before I learned this trick, so many times I've ruined things and it just made me so mad. I'm going to scribble. And okay, I need my 3 pieces of chipboard. Sorry, I got my hands in the wrong place. I'm going to put my chipboard down, and again, it's 3 thicknesses. I'm going to line up my chipboards right together and then on that line, that 1 inch line there. Okay. And again, I'm going to turn that over and I'm going to burnish it. Slick, huh? Okay, so far so good. So now I have, can you see that? Now, what I do differently, Frances Long from my book, Your Book of Memories, has some incredible tutorials about how you can cover your albums as well. Again, my way is not 100% perfect, nor is it safe, goof proof, but I always try to find the easiest, quickest way. In Frances, I actually learned a lot from Frances as well. So one of the things that I do next is I'm going to gently use my bone folder, and I'm going to gently move, and I'm going to, as you can see, I'm doing, running that right down that open gap. Just gently, don't do it hard because you don't want to rip your paper, and I'm moving the paper. And I want to get that. And then I'm going to do it on the other side. I'm going to do that before I even turn my ends in. So it's really important you do this, and I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, so you just want to be able to get that a good crease. Okay, so there, that's good. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to put a piece to cover these gaps. Now, in a big album, I would never use a big piece to cover both all the way across, because my spine's normally 3.5 to 4 inches. I do not put a piece of paper all the way across there. I only put like an inch down on each side. However, this is only 1.5 inch spine. So because of that, I'm going to lay a 3.5 by 8 inch piece of cardstock, again, the 65-pound weight, right over the middle of my chipboard. You want about, about a 1/2 inch on each end to do that. So again, what we want to do is we're going to take score tape, and we're going to score tape down on your sides here. Keep it on the chipboard. I guess I didn't have to go all the way up, so I forgot what I was doing. And come down about to here. Sometimes I forget what I'm doing. Tomorrow my granddaughter here's her first day of school. She's going to be in 5th grade. She's pretty excited. I have 4 granddaughters. 2 that live in Denver and 2 that live here with me in Montana. So we're all pretty excited about getting back to school. The Denver kids already went back to school about a couple weeks ago. Okay, so you see how I put that on there. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to burnish it down. I'm using my blunt end. Give it a good burnish. Okay, now on my cardstock, flip it over. I also put my score tape on that. I honestly don't use a lot of score tape. This will probably be the most score tape we use in the building of the cover. Okay, so let's take off those pieces. And take them off on all of them. It's a lot of score tape. I have to be careful because my dog will get them and eat these little white pieces. Okay, remember again, we're just going to run glue up and down that tape, so it gives us a little bit of wiggle room in case we make a boo-boo. And I've made plenty of boo-boos. Put the lid back on your glue so it keeps it good. I'm telling you, this art glitter glue that dries clear, gotta have it. Okay, so then I'm just going to take my piece here, and I'm just going to kind of center it down on everything. Again, what am I doing? I'm burnishing it. Yahoo! That is so slick. Okay, so great. Now what we're going to do is we have these sides here that we have to move up on here to make us a beautiful cover. So guess what that takes? It does take more tape. And again, I promise you this is the most tape that we will use because I rarely use the tape, only in this instant. So one of the other lovely things that I've learned, I have fancy tools, a little square that you go right here, so you make sure you get the right angle. I lose it. I can't find it. I get angry, and so I try to figure out what's going on. So one of the things that I've also learned, probably from Frances, is if you take like maybe 2 of your thicknesses of your chipboard, lay it against your corner point. Can you see that? Let me see here. Against your corner point on here. Let me see here. Let me try this. See that? So here's your point right here. My finger is. You're going to lay these 2 thicknesses on there. and you're going to take a pencil and you're just going to draw a line. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that in that box. Can you see that line right there? So again, my two thicknesses, laying it next to that point, drawing a line. See that right there? You're going to do that on all four sides. Again, drawing a line. You don't need any special tool. All you do is lose it or misplace it until you don't need it. And then that's what happened to me. Kind of made me mad. So you know what's really cool about that? Now when you use your score tape, we have to put score tape around your chipboard and then around the outside of your paper. What's going to happen the way I had you cut it, it's already about a 1 inch extra all the way around. I like to pre-cut mine like that so I don't have to maneuver it after I get it down. Some people put it all on and cut it off. I like to do it and have it ready to go. So it doesn't have to be a perfect inch. That's not a problem. So by doing what size I told you, it'd be great. Okay, so let's go put our score tape on. And we're going to go right over those gaps. Don't even panic about it. Just go right over those gaps to the end of your chipboard. And cut that off. I'm going to go around all four sides. I don't know about you guys. I am a crafter at heart. I am the happiest when I craft. It makes me relaxed. I love to share my ideas. I would teach the world how to do crafting if I could. I also quilt. I do teach quilting. I love quilting as well. I don't know, the last few years my heart has really been into making albums. I make a lot of them. I give them away as gifts. My staff, I'm a manager at a bank. My staff loves to get married or have a baby because they know they're going to get an album from me. And I love to see them smile and get all excited when they're trying to figure out all the flips and folds that I put in. So I'm continuing around here putting in my score tape. If you watched my video yesterday or on the beginning of this, I told you I make 3 different ways of how to put pictures in. I give them a layout, which I say fill up your layouts first. Cover up those white spaces that I put in there for you. Once those are filled up, put some in your pockets. Once your pockets are filled up, then start covering that pretty paper that you have some larger spots with. That way they have many different options and they're not just stuck with just pockets or just everything is beautiful paper and they don't want to cover it up. So that gives them a really great option, those 3. And so it has been very successful. I've seen them put photos in them and they're beautiful. Okay, so here we have all my score tape around. And as you notice, that pencil line, where I had that pencil line, I stopped because we're going to cut that off at that angle so you don't have to go all the way to the end. All right, so let's burnish all of those really good. That's really important, you guys, because that is what keeps your sticky tape working. Okay, so here we go. Going to take those off. You need to take them basically, I kind of do them halfway here for a second because, oh shoot, I forgot to tell you something. Before we get started, let me see if I can put this back down. I don't know, we'll see. Before we take those tapes off, one of the things that helps is prepping our pieces to make them bend. And so pick up your book and just kind of rock it a little bit. You see how that just went up like that? I'm going to take my bone folder and kind of give it a little thing there. I'm going to turn it around and again, lift it up, give it a rock. Give it a rock. Kind of go with your thing there. Okay, let's do the same thing on the ends. Give it a rock. See that? Can you see that? Give it a rock. Sorry, I'm just getting used to my camera, you guys. What's trying to work best with it. So I ask you to be kind. I'm just trying to help. You guys have fun. Okay, here. Again, I'm just lifting up and holding onto my chipboard and rocking it. That just kind of gives it a lovely start. I also almost forgot to cut my pieces off there. So now what we're going to do is where we drew that line, right on the outside, but we're going to cut because you'd rather have too much than too little. When you have too little, that's what you get upset about. So I'm going to cut just on the other side of that line on all 4 of my pieces. Can you see that? I'm just cutting right on the outside of that line. Again, we'd rather have too much left over than too little. Like my big mess over there? Sorry, let me get out of the camera way. Okay, here we go for this one. Okay, now we are ready, Freddy, to take off my strips. Now I usually take off my ends and I kind of bend this back. Did you see that? Kind of. This little picker here is like from Tim Holtz. I really like it. It's kind of cool. Okay, so here I'm going to take that off. Okay, now what we're going to do, I start in the middle of my piece right here. And you want to just bring that over and it's going to stick on that first tape. And kind of push that down and get that good like that. See? Isn't that great? Okay, again, I'm going to pick this up and kind of get that out of the way. Take that, get that out of the way. Can you see that? Looks like kind of like a table. The legs are. I'm going to get this out. This out. Okay. Again, I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to grab it. It's going to touch that tape. That's that very first tape that's down there. And look at that. Isn't that slick? Bone folder. There you go. There you go. Now here's the slick thing. Here's why I put this down first. I put this down first because I don't like this, people that put it down afterwards, this top of this sticks up and I just don't like it. It doesn't hurt anything. I just would rather have mine inside. Okay, there's that. Whoops, we don't want to do that. Okay, again, we're going to start here in the middle. This is a longer one, so you want to take your time. Again, get it stick on that very first tape. Whoops, 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 whoops. Before I do that, ladies, see, I almost forgot. I almost forgot to take care of our corners here. These corners are what stresses every crafter out when they're doing this. You're going to take your bone folder, and I'm going to try really hard to see if I can zoom in to one of these corners. Let me get my camera right. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to take my bone folder right against here, and you just turn it and push it down, and that kind of makes it gets out of the way. It kind of goes and twists down there, and it kind of bends it out of the way. And I know it's super hard to see. It's super hard. Again, you're going to take it. It's harder on one side than the other. You're going to take it and you're going to make sure it's all the way down your tape. And you're going to take your bone folder and you're going to push it around. So you kind of take it and pivot it. You see that? Take it, pivot it, like you're a car turning a 90-degree angle. That will give you, again, I'm driving 90-degree angle. It takes those points and pushes them in. Okay, now let's turn that over. And again, we want to be careful. And we're going to catch that very first tape first, and we're going to put that down. I'm going to flatten that out. And flatten that out, burnish that a bit. Look at that. Nice, nice, nice. Can you see that? See how nice that is right there? Okay, let's move the screen back out here. Okay, again, we're going to take my car, we're going to drive, and we're going to take a 90-degree turn. And we're going to make that 90-degree turn that just kind of gets that flat piece down. Go 90-degree turn. My daughter, when she was learning to drive, was doing about 45 miles an hour. She's a very smart young lady, for real. I'm not making that up. Doesn't have no common sense. Was driving about 45 miles an hour. And she made a 45-degree turn without slowing down. Needless to say, she didn't wreck. She went in the ditch, scared the crap out of her dad. So that reminds me of this. So we're going to come around here and we're going to do it and take a 90-degree angle. Take that turn. You know what's funny? Is every album I make, one side is very easy to do and the other side is not. I hope you guys have that same experience. Okay, so I'm going to take that up. Okay, again, let's start in the middle. Very carefully, we're going to add it to that first rung of tape right there. Okay, because that's our first attachment. Do that. Get that up there. You're just going to work it all the way down. And you're going to burnish the corners to make it lay flat. Burnish all this. Smooth out any little imperfections you have. And there you have it. Isn't that great? Okay. I got a little bit of a ripped paper right there. That kind of bums me out. But you know, we are going to use this art glitter glue. And we're going to glue it right on there, you guys. And you're just going to rub it with your finger. And remake your paper. Bet you didn't know that, huh? Again, you're just going to rub the glue on there, pat it with your finger, and get it back in place and let it set. Okay, great. We have one thing left to do. Now, I know it's really hard to see these corners, but you see that? So I honestly don't make my covers on most of my albums until I'm all done, because I don't know how big I'm going to make my spine. Typically, my spines are 3.5 to 4 inches. Sometimes it depends on how many pages I put in my book, I decide, or how thick those pages are. So I try to make my cover at the end. However, what I'm going to train you guys to do, if you make your cover at the end, we're always going to cut our pieces for the outside of our books before we begin. Because you know what happens when you forget? Get all the way done, you go to grab paper, and all the cool paper that you used inside your book, now you don't have anything fun for your outside. So you always want to remember that. Now, before you just start cranking on your book, we are gently, remember we already did it part way, but we're going to gently use our bone folder and gently we're going to crease that. Gently, ladies, gently. Or gentlemen too, so sorry. And as I do that, I am going to be slowly lifting my book. You see that? Slowly lifting my page. Slowly. You do not want it to close all the way. That is not the goal of your album. You want to be able to move it freely. I've got a little pucker right here. I can't seem to get rid of. I don't know if I need a little bit of glue there for something. Didn't hear or something. So I'm going to put a little glue in there. Again, I'm going to rub it with my finger to kind of get that down there. Okay. I turn mine because it's easier for me to do it on this side. Again, I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to start my crease, and I'm gently, very gently, very, 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 very gently. You don't want to press hard, because if you do, you're going to rip your paper. That is not what our goal is. Okay, so there we go. And there we have our book. See that? Look at that. Nice, 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 nice. Okay, now, wow, I hope we're doing okay. Hope we're doing okay. So, again, we've got a great cover. You can choose to do a wrap if you want. I'm not going to on this one, but that's how I cover them. I cover every album now, whether it's a 4x4 album, an 8x8, a 10x10, because that makes it look really nice. Sweet. Okay, now let's talk about that spine. I have lots of people stressed out about their spine. I have taken many, 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 many people's ideas and kind of accumulated into my own. I bet you many of you have made the spines that are like 6 inches wide and have all like a spike for each 6 of your pages, which makes 12 pages, and you lay it out. And when you lay it out, you take this is your spine, and you take it and you accidentally, this is your book, and you accidentally make it like this. Guess what happens? Every page that you put in is going to continue to spiral down and out of control. Upsets me tremendously. Also, when you put your pages in your book and they are touching your spine all the way to your book, it makes them hard to turn. So what I've done is I've taken tons of ideas and I'm going to tell you what I've come up with. Okay. We are going to talk about our spine piece. This spine piece is a piece of cardstock. And again, I'm hoping you guys got these instructions that you could see them really nicely. I'm going to watch the video, and if I can't, I'll try to figure out how to get them out there for you. I did get some editing software. I don't know how to use it yet. As soon as I do the next tutorial that I make, I will hopefully be able to put the information on the screen itself, but I'm challenged at this moment. I'm hoping my granddaughter, who's going in 5th grade, can actually help me by watching YouTube. Okay, so here's my spine. Here's what I'm going to do. This is a 4.5 by 8.5 inch piece. When we get done, it's going to sit inside my book here. You will see that I have scored a 1/2 inch every single time. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 score lines. Again, 4.5 inches wide by 8.5 inches long. You score at every 1/2 inch increment. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set my cover out of the way for a minute. I am going to, and you always want to fold towards that bumpy side, by the way. I'm going to fold on every 1/2 inch. So I'm going to fold just with my fingers and kind of give it a crease. And I'm going to go, and I'm going to do 4 of them this way. Again, I'm just creasing on every single one of them. You can see how it kind of starts curling. I'm going to turn over, still the bumpy sides on the top, and I'm going to, again, finger press the other, whoops, I kind of got that one on a whack. The other 4. Okay, so here you can make a circle out of it. You see that? You can make a tube. So what our goal is, and I made a white one and I thought it would show up better, is we're going to make this U. See that U? Can you see that? Like a bridge over troubled waters. This is my big U. Okay. What happens with this U is we have, I'm going to draw a line right here. This U has, gosh, I thought you'd be able to see it. It has 1/2 inch and then a crease, 1/2 inch crease. This is the bottom part that's going to be attached to your book. And then on the other side, the other U has a 1/2 inch, a crease, and a 1/2 inch. So this is so incredibly cool when you see how this works. Now, what you need to know is we're going to actually make each leg an inch. So we're going to glue these two. We're going to take 2 sections and we're going to glue them to the next 2 sections on each side. Before we do that, so important, on each end, this is after you fold it, after you score it and fold it, we're going to cut off just a sliver off of each end. If you do not, when you go to put it together, it catches. So I'm going to cut off a sliver. So I'm stepping away for just one moment to my cutter. And I'm going to show you literally how much I cut off so you can see what I mean, just a sliver. And my gosh, you guys, when you figure out this system, you will not want to do anything else. So these are my slivers. Can you see that? These are my slivers, just a little bit. Okay, I'm going back to my glue. So I'm going to put glue on my first 2 pieces. So I'm going to draw a line here and here. The 2 outside pieces of my spine that I create, or my binding system, I'm going to put glue on. Don't put glue in your crease line. Don't do that. Okay, so here I'm going to take my glue. I'm just going to scribble. I call it scribbling. I'm just going to scribble. I'm going to scribble. Try to stay out of that crease if you can, please. Okay, then I'm going to fold that 1 inch, so it's really 1 inch of stuff I'm going to fold. Guess what I'm going to do? Take my, this is essential to how things work for me. You're going to bone fold it down. Okay, so now I've lost 1 inch in my lovely gadget that I made, but that's exactly what I want. This is double thickness. Each leg of the U is double thickness. I'm going to turn it around and do the same exact thing. On the 2 outside 1/2 inch marks where I've scored, I'm going to scribble with my glue. Again, telling you, you got to get this glue. If you don't use it, you got to get it. It is an absolute staple in your album making. Okay. Again, I've got it on the 2. I'm going to close it over. I'm going to shut my glue here. I don't like to leave my glue open. Take my bone folder. Gotta have this, and you're going to burnish it. That just so puts it in place. So now really I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have an inch, I have 2.5 inches now left of my 4.5 inches. So let me explain to you how this works. You're always going to make your U's an inch tall, double thickness. This right here is what's super cool. This is why you're always going to want to do this. This right here is the distance, the width between your pages. I typically do a 1/2 inch. Therefore, we started with a 4.5 inch piece. But the last album that I created, who my mom has made 2 on her 3rd, hopefully my goal is to get you a tutorial on that, is the pages are so thick, we made this 5/8 of an inch. So you're gosh, well, what do I do? Guess what? You take your 5/8 inch plus 4 inches would make 4 and 5 inches, 4 and 5/8. You would take and you would score 1/2 inch 4 times from one side. You would turn over and score 1/2 inch on 4 times on the other side, and that leaves you a 5/8 inch gusset. These are all the same inch, and it's great. Okay, so now that I've preached about that, again, I'm going to give it some good burnishing. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, you can ask me some questions. I know this is new for me for videoing it, so I'm hoping it will show, and maybe I can get some tips from some other people that video. Let me see if I can move this in with the camera just a tad bit so we can get a good look at it. Okay, so again, I have each leg of my U is an inch wide with a score down the middle. Now, before we put this in your book, I want you to also kind of give that score line in between your 2 legs of your U, give it a little bit of work so that it's going to be maneuvered just a little bit. Okay, so there we go. So now what are we going to do? Well, I am going to use score tape, and this is a time I use 3/8 inch score tape, and I have to grab it because I don't have it sitting here in front of me. And I'm going to put it in the middle of this. Now this is 1/2 inch, so this is going to be just a little bit too short, but not too wide, but that's good. Okay, I'm going to put it right down the middle of my spine. Okay, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to burnish it. I'm going to grab my cover, this beautiful cover that we made, and at this time you're going to decide, well, it doesn't really matter. At this point in time, it doesn't really matter. Now, this is 1.5 inches. Our spine is 1/2 inch. So we want 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. So there's a couple ways that you can do this. I use a ruler. I lay it down. And you can put a line down there. And I'm going to, so you can see that. Do you see my pencil line? My pencil line right there. I'm going to use that, guess what, to lay my spine piece on it, right up on it. That's going to help me keep it straight. I want you to have your bottom your spine about 1/4 inch from the bottom, which will make it 1/4 inch from the top. Just focus on one, doesn't matter. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to take off my score tape here with my lovely Mr. Tim Holtz tool, which I love. Don't want to drop it in your foot, make sure you close it. Now, again, what's my favorite staple of my crafting? It's this art glitter glue. I'm telling you. Again, remember what I said? I'm going to scribble. I'm going to scribble down on my tape. Guess what that's going to do? It's going to make it slippery. So when you set it down and you don't have it perfect the first time, no worries. No worries at all. Of course, you have to be coordinated enough to get the pin back in there. Okay, so here we go. I am going to take my piece, and I've got it folded kind of flat, and I'm going to put it right on that line where I drew, about 1/4 inch from the bottom. Okay, about 1/4 inch from the bottom. And I'm just going to kind of gently put it there, and gently push. I'm going to look, does that look good? Does it look good? Absolutely, it looks good. Once I get that down, you can open it up, make sure it looks good. Guess what? Here we go. Burnish, burnish, burnish. You're going to burnish that down. Really good. Really super good. You can go both ways. Okay. And here's my piece that I told you to kind of work. So now I have my cover. I have my U. See that U? There you go. See the U? Wow. Isn't that cool? Is that not cool? So guess what? When you're doing 6 pages, you were just going to draw another line and you put another one next to it. And here's what's cool. You will not have, you have 6 pages, which I typically do. They're not going to all be attached. When I make pages, my pages are heavy. So when they're all attached to one piece, I had a lot of trouble with it pulling away eventually. I don't with this because we're concentrating on just these 4 pages. And I can maneuver what's the difference distance is right here. I could make another one over here if I had a bigger spine. I could make these over here 5/8 of an inch. So you are so 100% in control. The other thing that we're going to do is we are going to take, and I am so into this, and I normally do stripes. I didn't have any stripes in this paper. You're going to cut 3 pieces that are going to go in between your spine pieces here. I'm just going to show you how that goes. They are going to be 3/8 of an inch. Oh, I didn't cut them long enough. Well, shoot. We'll have to fix that in the next video. They're hard to see, but they're going to go in between my binding system I made. They would be 3/8 of an inch because you do not want them touching your sides of your binding system or where your creases are, because it will make it hard to fold. This, of course, our book, remember, is 9 inches. These would be cut 3/8 of an inch by 8 3/4 of an inch. And I cut mine too short, so I'll have to make new ones for my next video. So hopefully that makes sense. And I'll look at my piece here. You let me see here. 3 pieces, 3 1/8 by 8 1/4. And I chose to cut mine 8 1/2. So I'll have to redo mine. But when it happens is that when you do that, that covers up all that black in there. So I'll catch that on the next one. Okay, let's cover our front of our book, and then we will pause for this video, and then I will get my next section going tomorrow. Now, typically, you guys, this is really hard for me. Typically, I do what my mom calls smudging. I typically smudge all my edges, and I use normally Tim Holtz Distressed Ink, the Vintage Photo. And I have a little one of these that has a thing on there. And I typically go through and I ink and kind of give them a distressed look. I am not going to do that through my photo all the way through because it takes quite a bit of time. And on like this dark paper, it's hard to see, but I do that. So that does take me a lot of time. So your cover pages. So here's what we need to cover it. And again, remember, I'm using scrap paper. This is paper I had from another album that I used, so they're not matching. So when you go to make your albums, and I'm going to grab my mom's right here. This is another album that I've designed, so I'm super excited about this. Look at how big that is. This is my Chunky Monkey. I like it. My mom's made several of these. There's my waterfall. So as you see, my mom in the front of this did this really fun beach boards. She did wrap her spine. Her cover is wrapped, but she did wrap over her spine. And then her back page is different. Okay, you can, when you get ready to start your book, take out your pages that you want for your front. Most paper collections have 2 of each, sometimes 3. So if you want this to go all the way around, cut your pieces, set them aside so that you have them. On this one, because we're not wrapping the spine, I personally am going to cover my whole piece. So I'm going to cut these 2, I need 2 papers, 7 by 8 3/4. So 7 inches by 8 3/4. So that's going to leave us an 1/8 inch gap all the way around because it's we cut it a 1/4 inch different. So isn't that going to be great? So guess what? Because I'm not going to put any holders on here. There's no reason to put any closures on this because it's a small album. Guess what I'm going to use? I'm going to use my glue. And I first go around all the perimeter, and you want to get the corners good. Make sure you get glue in the corners. That's super important. And after I do that, guess what I do? I scribble. Okay, pick up your paper, grab your cover, make sure you find which side you want to the top, because sometimes you do better on one way than the other. And I'm just going to center it on there. Okay, isn't that great? You know, actually what I do sometimes, and I probably should have done it, I do this sometimes before I put that inside spine in, because it's easier to lay down when you have a big spine, by the way, not this 1.5 inch one, but okay. Yes, so I'm just going to give it a really good burnish. And as you see, the glue pops out. And that's what really you want to do, because you know what that means? It's getting it all the way to the edge. While I'm down here, I'm going to gently do my gaps right here. Just gently. Don't do them hard because you'll rip them, okay? If you rip them, you can go cover them. Or you can run glue over it. Remember, like I told you, you could go and you could put glue. I'm just going to pretend that's ripped. Put glue like that. Dab it with your finger. And it kind of remakes your paper. You can do that, okay? So again, let's grab our second piece. Again, I'm going to glue. Whoops, I got kind of far away there. Get your corners good. That's really, the corners are really important to get. Now, if I am making a big album like that one of my mom's I just showed you, I would use score tape around the sides that are going to be on the outside pieces of it. The reason being, remember, I'm going to burnish it. Did you see that glue pop out? I mean, I don't know if you can see that. When I burnish this, the glue is popping out along the bottoms and all the sides. That's what you want. You're moving that glue, catching all the edges, which makes it go down really, really, really well. Okay. Look at that. Great, 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 great. Okay, look at that. Look at that. Ta-da! Okay, I have my one last piece to put in. This is going to be my spine. Again, if you guys want to cover your spine, you can. You'd probably want a piece, I'm going to guess about 5.5 inches, 5 to 5.5 inches. I chose not to do that with this one. Again, because I really wanted you to understand why sometimes it's cool to cover your albums like this, because then you don't have to worry about wrapping that. I've heard, again, lots of horror stories. You get beautiful cover. You got to put that on there. And some paper's not meant to move. This paper that I'm using, I don't even know the collection of it because I've had it for so long, is super, super, super heavy. For me to make that bind over there would be almost impossible. So I don't want to upset myself and cause any problems. Okay, so again, I'm going to use my glue, my staple of my staples, and I am going to get the corners really well. And I'm going to go scribble, and I'm going to center this, and I'm going to try to match it up as best as I can. Now, you guys know that homemade gifts are not perfect, and nor should they be. If they were perfect, if you wanted them perfect, go to the store. Well, first of all, when you go to the store, you find flaws too. But that's not what gifts are all about. They become very, very unique. Again, I am using this bone folder. If anybody knows where I can get these more making, it's from Making Memories. I want more. I only have this one. My mom has one. My gosh, if I could find it again, I really want them. They're have the best ends in them. I got a great big, my mom bought me this great big fat one. I don't know where she got this one. And we thought we liked it at first, but it's not as wide. See that? And it just doesn't, it's okay, but it's not what I wanted. Again, my glue is pushing out. That's cool. It dries clear. Don't panic. We're gonna get that in there. So look at that. So we have completed our cover, and that's what we're gonna do for this first tutorial. We've got our cover made. We've got the understanding of our first spine here, and wait until you see how this works. Again, we got this far, but we still have a little bit more to go with why this is unique. I can't lay claim to this 100%, because it's accumulation of many, many, many different things, but this works so slick. Okay, so one thing I also want to do in my book, don't write on the outside, but I'm going to write front and back so that I know when I go to start putting my stuff in, we will have it in the right place. Okay, there we go. I hope that was super helpful, that you learned a little bit on what we did in covering our albums, our chipboard. You know, you can get the chipboard from the Dollar Tree store, and it's like the kids write erasable, so it's got like different cartoon characters on it, and it's big enough to make an album normally, but it's white. It is thicker, and you can cut that, but what are you going to do with it? You need to cover it. Guess what? Here's how you do it. Again, I didn't used to do it. Now I'm very successful. Remember, on the corners, you're going to take your little bone folder and you're going to turn the corner. You can turn the corner, and that kind of pushes the tip of that down, so your these come out so nice. I'm not perfect, and occasionally I might make a little goof up, but not too bad. Okay, so that's what we're going to do for this one. My next one coming up, I'm going to kind of give you the list of what you need so you can get prepared for it ahead of time. We're going to cover the waterfall and to start with. And so I'm going to bring my paper up like this. I think on the big screen you'll be able to see all that, freeze frame it. That's what you're going to need. That's for the waterfall. And then the inside back cover is the envelope that we're going to do. And again, here's the information for that. So I think that you can freeze frame that and get that information. And so you can have those pieces prepared so that you can get ready to work on them. Again, I'm super excited. Again, I hope this helps some people. I just want to, I love crafting, and I think it's great and fun for everybody. It's relaxing sometimes, unless you put your page down wrong. That's why you put the glue over the tape. So when you don't lay it down right the first time, guess what? It doesn't stick right away. Okay, that's it for now. I'm going to go ahead and get this posted, and I hope to make my next video soon. Thank you.